Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about the most recent patch to the Overwatch live servers and what it means for the future of the game, the meta, all that kind of stuff. And obviously the most recent patch did include the Paris map, but that is not what I'm going to focus on in this video. What I'm going to focus on is the change to the hit point priority order and what it means for Overwatch as a whole. But even before I do that, I want to make one little quick comment. If you've been following the Overwatch Twitter account, or pretty much any Overwatch YouTuber, you would have seen a video talking about a Hero 30 tease that dropped yesterday. I'm going to avoid talking about that. I'll talk about it on Wednesday a little bit. In Overwatch Weekly, I'll kind of talk about the teasers we've gotten up to that point and maybe what they might be alluding to. But in general, I don't think we're going to be seeing our next hero until next week. So probably next Wednesday, maybe next Thursday. But in general, just kind of look out for that. We haven't gotten it yet. I don't think we're going to get it until next week. So just be a little reserved and know that. But let's just get started on this meta discussion. So on screen, I'm going to put a picture that hopefully you see. This that you are looking at is the previous order of the hit point distribution of a hero, okay? In the event that a hero had all of the different types of hit points, this is what their health bar would look like. Now, obviously you can see that there are 5 different things on here. You have, from right to left, temporary shields, temporary armor, and health. So the difference between all these things is basically how are they distributed, what gives them, etc., etc., etc. So obviously I've talked about this in Overwatch Weekly a little bit, but I figured I would get a little bit more into the actual thing a little bit more than I did in the past. So the shields, right, to give you a little bit of a reading into what they are. So shields are a special type of hit point, and the way that it is described here on the Overwatch Gamepedia, shields automatically regenerate at a rate of 30 shields per second after avoiding damage for 3 seconds. Similarly, shields on Reinhardt's barrier field and Brigitte's barrier shield also regenerate at various rates after being inactive for 2 seconds. Since other barriers are constantly active once deployed, their shields do not regenerate. Despite this, all shields share a common feature that they are the only type of HP that EMP can damage and destroy. So that is what shields are. Temporary shields, specifically, are non-recoverable shields, commonly called temporary personal shields or temporary shields, and they are susceptible to EMP like regular shields, and they do not regenerate at all. So currently, you get temporary personal shields from 3 different places. Doomfist's passive ability, the best defense, which creates up to 150 temporary personal shields to Doomfist. And it's 35 for each target hit with a normal ability and 75 for each target hit with Meteor Strike, and it decays 3 points per second after 1 second. Lucio gives them out with Sound Barrier, I can't talk today, which creates 750 temporary personal shields to self and all allies within range, and that decays 125 points per second. And then you have Wrecking Ball's Adaptive Shield, which creates 100 temporary personal shields to self, plus 100 additional shields per enemy within range that lasts 7 seconds without decay and does not give ultimate charge if damaged. So that is the former first in priority. Then you would of course get the normal shields, which is on heroes like Symmetra, Zenyatta, and Zarya. They're the only heroes that have that currently, and those are the ones that will regenerate over time. Do not need to be healed up by a health pack or a support to get back. After that, you would get into the temporary armor and the armor. So we'll start with what armor is, because temporary armor is just a temporary version of that. But armor is a little difficult to understand, so I'll try to read this a little bit slower. So, with armor, for every instance of damage, armor reduces that damage taken by 3 if the damage is less than 6, the armor halves the damage instead. So if you're taking 5 damage, it would be 2.5, 4, 2, etc., etc. But the max that you will take reduced is 3. So even if you take 20 damage, it'll reduce it by 3 and not 10. As such, armor is extremely effective against attacks that consist of multiple instances of small damage, such as shotguns, beams, and guns that shoot very fast, and is less effective against single instances of high burst damage, such as Hanzo Stormbow or Junkrat. Even if the armor runs out, as long as there was at least 1 point of armor before taking damage, the damage will be reduced. Armor is the very last modifier to be applied. For example, if a fortified Orisa would take 100 damage, Fortify reduces it by 50%, and then armor chips away another 3, making the damage 47. If she would take 10 damage, Fortify halves it to 5, and then armor halves it again since 5 is less than 6, making the damage 2.5. So that is armor. You then, of course, have temporary armor, which is non-recoverable armor, and it reduces damage like regular armor does. And that is currently given out by 3 abilities. For Brigitte, you have her Repair Pack, which provides a target up to 75 temporary armor when the healing is surplus, and that lasts 5 seconds. And then Brigitte's Rally provides self and nearby allies up to 100 temporary armor at a rate of 30 armor per second, and that lasts 30 seconds. The other armor ability is Torbjorn's Overload, which provides self 150 temporary armor. Now, a bunch of heroes have armor on their character. Diva's Mech has it, Orisa has it, Reinhardt, Winston, Wrecking Ball, Bastion all have armor. Brigitte has armor. So those are your recoverable armors, and then the non-recoverables were the Brigitte and Torbjorn instances. Then you should have your health, which is the most basic form of HP, and it is depleted when there are no armor or shields to protect it, and is the first to be replenished when being healed. So that's all you need to know. Health is white, armor is gold, shield are cyan, and then recoverable shields or temporary shields are a darker blue, and temporary armor is orange. So with that in mind, the old order, as you've been seeing on screen, and I'm going to pop it up again, you can see the order that you used to take damage is you would take the temporary shields first, then into your shields, then your temporary armor, then your health. There is technically a 6th type of health that doesn't actually exist in any capacity currently in the game, which is non-recoverable health, so just an overheal ability. At the moment, it doesn't exist, but if Hero 30 is a support hero, maybe we could see an overheal ability there. Technically doesn't exist right now, but keep that in mind that there is a possibility for it to exist, and if it did, I'll get into where it would be. So the old order, you had stuff like that, right? And what that did, it did a lot of good for heroes like Zenyatta and Symmetra and Zarya in these GOATS compositions. Now, Symmetra didn't get run a lot, but Zarya and Zenyatta are super central to a GOATS composition, because what it did before the nerf to the Brigitte armor thing is it allowed these heroes to get armor, and it would sit under their shields. And before Brigitte's ultimate had that 30-second duration, they could have shields that they could deplete, maybe take a little bit of damage. But if they got out of the fight, or if they left with some of those shields intact, their armor would be completely untouched. Or if they left with a little bit of the shield gone, or most of the shield gone and a little bit of the armor depleted, they would still keep that armor. And it became an issue with kind of heroes that had shields above the armor. It would be super stacked, and that helped them out to kind of survive in some of these big fights. So then, of course, they added that Brigitte's Rally has the limited duration, which means that it wouldn't stack as much anymore, or you wouldn't snowball as much, because eventually those armors would go away, or that armor would go away over time anyway. You wouldn't have to take damage for it to go, so it meant that Rally was not an ability you could use back at your own spawn and then charge in. You have to use it before you fight. So that was what that change did. Then in the most recent patch, they changed the priority order for hit points, and I'll show you that now. You can see it on screen here. So now, the change isn't that massive when you look at the former version of it. it really just switches two of the different types of hit points. So temporary shields are still going to be the first thing, health is still going to be the very last thing, and armor is still going to be the thing right before the health. What changes is the temporary armor now goes over top of the shield, which means if you lose your temporary shields, instead of it going into your shields, it's going to go into your temporary armor. And if you don't have any temporary shields, the thing that's going to be hit first is your temporary armor. This hurts more than anything else. Brig is really the only hero that really doesn't like this. In terms of dishing out armor, obviously, she's the only hero that can give other heroes temporary armor, so in that way, Brig is not as strong, because when she gives out armor, it's not as good, because it's just going to go away before anything else, where it used to be like you have a Zenyatta and a Zarya, who are two of the most important heroes to a GOAT's composition. It used to be, okay, well, we can give them this temporary armor, and even though the rally duration was down to 30, that still gave you 30 seconds where these heroes essentially just had a constantly growing health pool, because the armor was beneath their shields, and it would just kind of boost that up. So even if they're losing some shields, they still have armor, so they're not really losing any health. Now the armor's not going to last, and it's going to be the first one to take damage. So it's a pretty big change that I question how important or how necessary it was. If they had never changed the rally duration to be 30 seconds, I would think this is a really good change, really smart change, because it prevents all that kind of snowballing from happening. But now that rally doesn't last as long, this doesn't feel like a necessary thing, and I think it hurts some of these heroes a lot. It hurts the GOAT's composition a lot, which is, depending on who you ask, a very good thing, but I have just some kind of questions and concerns about why this happened, and I wonder if Hero 30 has something to do with what we've seen with this patch. Now, the reason I say that, the reason why I say Hero 30 might have something to do with it, is because obviously there's this overheal potential now with the fact that non-recoverable health is on that priority order that it was mentioned. It had never really been known about before, but now it was mentioned, and it's in between your non-recoverable armor and your shields. So it would go in general, it would go between it would go between your non-recoverable stuff and your recoverable stuff, and that's the idea of the way it's changed. Instead of it being the, shields, armor, and health in order, and then you'd always have the non-recoverable version first in that, it's all the non-recoverables, then your recoverables. So if overhealing is now an ability that we see with Hero 30 or a Mercy rework or whatever, it leads me to wonder if we are going to see a change in the way the meta shifts. Because if GOATS relies a lot on Brigitte and Zarya and Zenyatta, and those are the three heroes that I think get hurt the most. Now, Symmetra gets hurt too, but Symmetra's already a damage hero, so she's not really tanky in any way, and it hurts because obviously now she doesn't get that additional health pool. It hurts her for the same reasons why it hurts Zenyatta and Zarya, but she's not really a huge GOATS hero. When we've seen her a bit in Overwatch League, we saw her on LA Gladiators, ran her with Surefour. We saw some plays by the San Francisco Shock with Symmetra as well. So she's been used, but not a ton, and she's not a great hero for the GOAT's composition, and she has some benefits to it because she has a similar attack style and damage style to Zarya, but you're not going to replace a tank with Symmetra for the most part. But in general, it's a very interesting look at what they've done with this, and it's a very interesting concept that they've decided to implement this overheal ability and how it impacts the priority order. Because in general, like, if this overheal is really strong and really good as an ability, which my guess is they didn't. I feel like they put that in there for a reason. Like, they wouldn't just say, "Oh, there's there is such a thing as non-recoverable HP or non-recoverable health, because that, like, why would you put that there if it doesn't exist in the game? So that means it is in the game in some capacity. It's in the game. So I look at the way that this impacts goats. Circling back to that point, because I didn't really fulfill what I meant to say there, but this of course means that we're probably going to see less of goats in the future meta, and when I think Hero 30 drops, we'll see less goats, depending on what Hero 30 is. Now, a lot of people think Hero 30 needs to be a tank, because if Hero 30 is a tank, it allows for some way of impacting goats. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen, nor do I think it would happen, because I think a tank would just help a tank-heavy meta even more. I think the overheal really is what matters, and what I've kind of thought, like, the thing with goats, the reason why goats is so effective is it's about speed, going through a choke as fast as you can, and powering through, and it works really well. So I don't know how you slow it down. This, I think, helps it, but what you do to get rid of it is where my question is. Because I don't think this solves it. I just think it's a little bit of a hindrance, but in reality, most things don't change, right? Okay, temporary armor is now going to take damage before your shields do, but that's really kind of whatever. In a way now, sustainability at the beginning of a fight is going to be slightly better if you're not taking bursts of damage, if you're taking like little bits of damage, which typically in a ghost composition you are taking massive amounts of damage anyway. You're just healing it all up, or it, you know. I don't think this is going to end goats. I still think goats is going to be the prevalent meta when this happens, if nothing else changes. If Hero 30 has an impact on goats, I don't know yet, because I don't know if it's a support or if it's a tank or if it's even a damage dealer. I don't think it is damage dealer. I think that Jeff made it pretty clear that the next support would be either a tank or a support, because Ashe was their kind of, we need another damage dealer because we haven't had one in a while, so here's another one for you all. But I'm curious to see what this does overall. I'm excited to see what the Overwatch League does when this change is in, especially when we see Hero 30 and how it impacts that. We might see this first in Contenders, but I'm not positive. But Contenders might be where we see this first. I'd say probably not, depending on how long it takes this to go live with Hero 30. But this patch and Paris we should see in Contender Season 1, because that gets started here in the next few weeks. I don't know if we'll see it, if we'll see this in Stage 2 of the Overwatch League. I think we probably will, and I'd imagine we'll see it in Stage 2, but I don't know if we'll see Hero 30 until Stage 3. So we'll have to wait and see, of course, but I'm excited to see what impact this has. But in general, what do you think about this whole priority HP change? I'm very kind of iffy on it and questioning how effective it'll be, but I need to see it in action really to kind of get a better idea of it. When I don't play a lot of goats, I've been playing Overwatch. I've been playing a lot of Brig and Zenyatta to kind of see if to me it feels any different, and it doesn't really feel all that different to me. I don't feel like I'm any less effective. But obviously, if you're not playing goats and you're not doing kind of super tank heavy compositions, you're not going to feel that difference, I think, in general. So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know what you think down below. But that's everything I got for you. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing. Helps out a lot. And like I said, I'll link it down in the description to the Gamepedia article on hit points and whatnot if you want to read more into it and just get a little bit more acquainted with what it all means. But that's where I'm going to end this off. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time, and bye-bye.